You know he won't. He even said it. He's never going to give it up. And anybody who deludes themselves in thinking that he is, shame on you.
You have compared the Trump family to a gangster family, which is something coming from you. What do you mean?
They are. Well, he because he thinks he's a gangster. He does everything like a gangster. I don't think that gangsters in that world would think much of him, because there's honor among thieves. There's honor in anything. If you don't keep your word and do the right thing with people, no matter what profession you're in, you are going to get ostracized. And in that world, it's a little harder.
Most people think democracy, rule of law, independent courts, and free press are just abstract ideas that don't impact their daily life or grocery costs. But actually, these things are about to affect everything, including food prices. Fixing this situation falls on all our shoulders. No hero is coming to rescue us. In a democracy, the most powerful role belongs to regular citizens.
People tend to think, democracy, rule of law, independent judiciary, freedom of the press, that's all abstract stuff because it's not affecting the price of eggs. Well, you know what? It's about to affect the price of eggs. It is up to all of us to fix this. It's not going to be because somebody comes and saves you. The most important office in this democracy is the citizen.
Obama recently said what everyone's been wanting to say about Trump, and he didn't whisper it. He delivered it clearly and powerfully. 1 minute Trump's golfing without a care. The next he's getting called out by a former president who speaks better and has stronger values. Trump probably couldn't believe what hit him. Get ready, because Obama wasn't being gentle. He was direct and honest.
Also called out the silence from Republicans about the economic turbulence here in the United States and President Trump's attacks on his perceived enemies. What do you make of what we heard from the former president and the former vice president?
Well, President Obama is probably the most popular politician around. I saw a Gallup poll earlier this year had him at 59%. Donald Trump never had a day in his whole life when he was at 59%. It's easier to be an ex-president. It is. And I think one of President Obama's great gifts in politics is timing.
Obama also pointed out how Republican leaders have stayed quiet about America's economic problems and Trump's attacks on people he sees as enemies. Obama remains one of the most well-liked political figures around. Polls showed him with 59% approval, something Trump never achieved even once. Of course, being a former president makes popularity easier, and Obama has always had great timing in politics.
People taken, handcuffed, and shipped to some hellhole in a prison in El Salvador without any due process. I'm glad Barack Obama is speaking out. I will also note, so is Joe Rogan. So if Donald Trump, okay, he's losing Barack Obama, he's also losing Joe Rogan, a very popular podcaster that Mr. Trump went on his show. Because Americans don't like that kind of lack of due process, and they sure don't like the costs going up at the grocery store the way they are.
Obama smoothly criticized Trump in a way that reminded everyone of the stark difference between them. He calmly highlighted Trump's problematic behavior while showing how presidential communication should actually work. You could almost hear Obama's casual attitude as he delivered some perfectly timed comments about the former president.
Did you see Barack Hussein Obama last night? Take little shots. He was taking shots at your president. You know, they always say, sure, please stick to policy, don't get personal. And yet they're getting personal all night long, these people. Do I still have to stick to policy? I don't know, my advisors.
Americans don't appreciate people being arrested and sent to faraway prisons without proper legal process. It's worth noting that both Barack Obama and Joe Rogan are speaking out against this. Trump appeared on Rogan's hugely popular podcast, but now he's losing support from both figures. People really don't like seeing their basic rights ignored, and they definitely don't like seeing their grocery bills keep climbing higher.
In order for us to be competitive, we're going to have to make some smart choices right now. Cutting our education budget, that's not a smart choice. That will not help us compete with China. Cutting our investments in research and technology, that's not a smart choice. That will not help us compete with China. Bringing down our deficit by adding $7 trillion of tax cuts and military spending that our military is not asking for, before we even get to the debt that we currently have, that is not going to make us more competitive.
Let's look at what was happening. Trump was being his usual messy self, complaining about election results, handling the pandemic poorly, and generally acting like a reality TV star who accidentally ended up as president. Meanwhile, Obama, who spent 8 years in office without daily embarrassments, decided it was time to respond.
Visually, he's changed. I like to say visually as opposed to from the look standpoint, because of course looks don't matter anymore in politics. You know, looks don't matter. It doesn't make any difference because we want to be politically correct, but they do matter. But he's changed. His look has changed actually quite a bit. I haven't seen him in a long time.
And by the way, Rob, I think that's even 4 years ago. I think it's even more than it is
Well, no,
today.
but the statement he just made was a couple of days ago, and that
Yeah, it was a couple of days ago.
Looks,
And it's similar to the statement he made back in 2012 when he told business owners, you didn't build that. Remember when he said that? I don't know if you remember that whole comment. I think this is the speech, Rob, if you want to play this.
You got a business. That you didn't build that. Somebody else.
And he didn't just politely disagree. Obama methodically addressed each of Trump's immature actions, probably while calmly enjoying his drink. Obama doesn't jump straight into criticizing without some skill. He's not one for petty insult. Instead, he has this way of pointing out problems that feels like a friendly let me explain what's wrong in the most graceful way possible conversation. It's similar to when a parent calmly explains why your choices are bad, so reasonable that you almost wish they'd just yell instead.
Has Donald Trump called you for advice or talked to you at all? And first of all, you've given him some pretty good advice so far, if you have.
Yeah.
But has he called and talked to you? I would call you if I was right.
No, he hasn't. No.
No.
His approach isn't about aggressive attacks. He makes one carefully chosen comment and then watches what happens, like someone calmly observing the chaos of Trump's public behavior from a distance. For us to stay competitive, we need to make smart decisions right now. Reducing education funding isn't a wise choice and won't help us compete globally. Cutting money for research and technology isn't smart and won't help us stay ahead of China.
Do with something more precious, which is who are we as a country and what values do we stand for? And now, this is not just an abstraction, and I think this is one of the challenges that we have.
Adding $7 trillion in tax cuts and unnecessary military spending before dealing with our current debt won't make us more competitive. Trump thrives on drama, noise, and confusion, preferably with lots of shouting. So when Obama shows up with his casual style and thoughtful pauses, delivering clever criticism wrapped in intelligence and a hint of talking down, it really throws Trump off balance. You can almost picture Trump's mind racing to find a comeback that's better than schoolyard name-calling or rambling statements full of capital letters and random quote marks.
Barack Obama is sharply criticizing President Trump's economic policies and calling the Trump administration's moves targeting President Trump's political opponents unimaginable. President Obama also has a message for his fellow Democrats saying, and I'm quoting him now, "We're in one of those moments when you know what."
I took the documents I'm allowed to. You know who else took them? Obama took them. Nixon took them.
Obama
Reagan
did not take
took them.
documents.
Oh, he didn't?
The difference here that I'd like to know.
Reagan
National
took
Archives
them.
says that President Obama
Even Jimmy
did not
Carter,
take
even Mike
documents.
Pence had some documents, and he's a
You
very
referenced
honorable
Pence,
guy.
you referenced
But you know who
Biden.
took
The difference between them is almost like poetry. Obama shares information calmly like a teacher, while Trump storms around like someone who just found out his favorite takeout place is closed. Obama doesn't need to shout, just one sentence from him rings louder than all Trump's yelling at rallies. The thing that really bothers Trump is that people actually pay attention when Obama speaks. He doesn't need to beg for clapping or create wild theories to get noticed. He simply talks, and suddenly Trump's whole story starts falling apart.
When, it's not enough to say that you're for something, you may actually have to do something and possibly sacrifice a little bit. That's the part people don't remember when they talk about protests or where they refer to the 60s or refer to past time. People did sacrifice.
What really stings is that Obama's relaxed criticism hurts more than any direct insult could. When Obama points out the obvious lies, double standards, and careless leadership, he's not doing it out of anger. It's more like a helpful announcement, clear, knowledgeable, and powerful. Trump wants to get into a messy argument, but Obama showed up with precision and confidence, making it obvious who's out of their league. Does Trump ever call you for advice? If I were in his position, I'd definitely reach out to you.
One of the things that has distinguished us in the past has been this basic idea that we are a rules-based society. What that means is that, you know what, I can support one candidate instead of another, and I don't have to worry that the police are going to come harass me or my customers.
Every time Obama mentions Trump, you can sense Trump's team scrambling to control the damage. Deep down, they realize that when Obama speaks, Trump loses some of his self-created fantasy. The rest of us just sit back and watch this expert display of presidential criticism. This wasn't just a random comment. Obama has grown tired of Trump's constant ridiculous behavior, from rejecting science to openly misleading the public. Obama shared his thoughts on social media with a message so clear and effective, it showed real skill in subtle criticism.
Those are the kinds of choices that the American people face right now. Having a tax code that rewards companies that are shipping jobs overseas instead of companies that are investing here in the United States, that will not make us more competitive. And the one thing that I'm absolutely clear about is that after a decade in which we saw drift, jobs being shipped overseas, nobody championing American workers and American businesses, we've now begun to make some real progress. What we can't do is go back to the same policies that got us into such difficulty in the first place.
The post itself was brilliant. Obama didn't need a long back and forth with Trump or make a big announcement. It wasn't a lengthy speech about disagreements. Instead, Obama made a brief, direct comment about Trump failing at his job. Simple but powerful. The best part, it made Trump's response look even worse. This connects to something more important, our national identity and the principles we support. Let's take a moment to notice how Trump can't handle any criticism without switching to "I'm the best ever" mode. When Obama posted that message, you could almost hear Trump rushing to respond. His reply completely missed Obama's point. Trump couldn't understand that someone was calling out his ridiculous behavior.
To speculate on how this whole race is going to go, I continue to believe Mr. Trump will not be president.
As usual, in this mindset of everything Trump says, he sort of means the opposite. Trump saying he's glad that Barack Obama, or as he says, Barack Hussein Obama, is campaigning for Kamala Harris, by which we can only be led to assume that Trump means he's terrified that Obama's on the campaign trail.
They're bringing out Obama. I say, oh, they did that with Hillary Clinton. Good, I'm glad they're bringing him out. The reason they're bringing him out, because he doesn't even want to do it. I think he's exhausted. I watched him talking. I think the guy's exhausted.
Instead of addressing anything meaningful, Trump probably sent another confused message about how the greatest economy ever was at risk. That's typical Trump. When someone points out your flaws, you bring up something completely unrelated that nobody asked about. But returning to what matters here, Obama's post was essentially a polite way of saying you're a complete mess. It was one of those moments where the person being criticized doesn't even realize how effectively they've been put in their place. While Trump was busy with nonsensical comebacks that barely made sense, Obama remained relaxed and continued doing what he does best, being the composed adult in the room, while everyone else acted like children who just had their toys taken away. Former President Obama is directly criticizing President Trump's economic policies and condemning the administration's actions against Trump's political opponents as unthinkable. But let's not miss the real brilliance here. How Obama, with just a simple post, highlighted everything wrong with Trump's leadership without any effort. Obama's approach isn't about being the loudest or posting the craziest rants. He doesn't need to shout to make his point. Obama is the person who says something so spot on that people might not immediately realize how accurate and cutting it was. Then he sits back and watches as everyone catches on. While Trump was complaining about unfairness, Obama's message kept people talking for hours, showing that a well-timed comment leaves a bigger impression than a loud outburst. He just needs to be himself, relaxed, thoughtful, and above the drama. When it's all done, the people who matter, those with actual critical thinking, find themselves agreeing with Obama. Meanwhile, Trump supporters are left staring at their screens trying to make sense of his latest confusing posts. When you know it's not enough to just say you support something, you might actually need to take action and possibly give something up. That's what people forget when talking about protests or referring to past movements. People really did make sacrifices. Let's examine Obama's recent post criticizing Trump. It was brilliantly subtle. Obama doesn't need to yell or scream. He's not trying to start an argument. He's smarter than that. His post was like a slow burn, casually pointing out the obvious problems with Trump's leadership style. Obama didn't even need to address the specific topic. He just shared one post with the precision of a well-constructed argument. He's been through it all, and now he's relaxing while watching Trump create his own problem. Obama could have spent hours going back and forth with Trump, getting into the same petty arguments we've all seen countless times. Instead, he posted a few sentences and Trump was left struggling with his own mess. One thing that has set us apart in the past is this basic idea that we follow rules as a society. What that means is that I can support one candidate over another without worrying that police will harass me or my customers. The best part is that Obama's post wasn't even a complete criticism. It wasn't aggressive or angry. It was like Obama was saying, "That's interesting, Donald. Keep doing your thing," but in the most polished, articulate way possible. Trump had no idea how to respond. But this isn't just about one post or a single moment of drama. This is a bigger ongoing problem with Trump's complete inability to take responsibility for anything. It's like watching someone repeatedly crash their car and then blame everyone else for their bad driving. When Obama points this out, it reminds us that Trump's failures aren't because of outside forces. They're because of his own incompetence, unwillingness to take advice, and refusal to admit he might be doing a terrible job. For Trump, accountability seems like a foreign concept. If something goes wrong, it's always someone else's fault, never his. These are the kinds of choices Americans face right now. Having tax rules that reward companies sending jobs overseas instead of companies investing in the United States won't make us more competitive. One thing I'm absolutely clear about is that after 10 years where we saw drift in jobs leaving America with nobody standing up for American workers and businesses, we finally started making real progress. What we can't do is go back to the same approaches that got us into trouble in the first place. Here's where it gets interesting. Trump, always the performer, did what he always does when cornered. He tried to change the subject. Instead of addressing anything meaningful that Obama said, he just started complaining about how Obama was weak, how his administration was awful, and how everything he touched failed. But here's the truth. Trump's actions speak much louder than any post. Obama didn't need to spend hours defending his presidency or launch into a long speech. All he needed to do was point out the obvious. Trump's presidency is a disaster and anyone paying attention knows it. The real kicker, Obama didn't stop there. He just needed one comment to remind everyone that he's not just a former president, he's someone who did his job with dignity while Trump seems determined to cause chaos throughout the country. To guess how this race will go, I still believe Mr. Trump will not be president. As usual with Trump's mindset of saying the opposite of what he means, when he says he's glad Barack Obama is campaigning for Kamala Harris, we can only assume he's actually terrified that Obama's on the campaign trail. They're bringing out Obama. I say, oh, they did that with Hillary Clinton? Good. I'm glad they're bringing him out. The reason they're bringing him out is because he doesn't even want to do it. I think he's exhausted. I watched him talk. I think the guy's exhausted. At the end of the day, Obama's criticism wasn't about winning an argument online or creating more political drama. It was just a clear reminder of how much better things could be.
Trump campaign jumped all over this garbage thing, and I don't blame them. It's not a smart thing to say. Joe Biden should drop out of this race immediately.
How do you like my garbage truck? This truck is in honor of Kamala and Joe Biden.
He's driving a garbage truck. He went out and rented a garbage truck and put his name on the side. Even wore a sanitation worker safety vest. This is not a picture we created. This is an actual photograph of Donald Trump.
In a move that's raising eyebrows across the political landscape, the Biden campaign handed their opponents some prime material. And who can blame the Trump team for running with it? The response was swift. Biden needs to step down from this race right now. Picture this. There's Trump grinning beside what might be the most unusual campaign prop yet. An honest-to-goodness garbage truck, complete with his name splashed across the side. And yes, he went all in, sporting a genuine sanitation worker's safety vest. This isn't some clever Photoshop job, folks. It's a real snapshot of our former president getting creative with his campaign strategy. It sounds like the setup for a punchline. What do you get when you mix an ex-president, waste management equipment, and a late-night TV host's material?
Fiberace was in Allentown last night where he treated his admirers to the old my crowd big, her crowd small routine. Well, Kamala must have hired a lot of buses because there were 75,000 of nobody at her rally last night.
Today they're busing people. You know, they're in a place in Washington, and they got buses all up. They're busing people because they couldn't get anybody to show up for her tonight. I didn't bus anybody. You're all here. This place is packed.
Instead of a joke's payoff, we got something better, a slice of political theater that Jimmy Kimmel couldn't have scripted better himself. Let's explore how this dumpster diving political maneuver ended up creating more buzz than bargained for. Quick intermission. I'd love to ask a quick favor. If this kind of content speaks to you, hitting that like button and joining our subscriber family would mean the world. Our analytics show that over 98% of viewers watch without subscribing. It won't cost you anything, but it helps us keep bringing you this content.
He gave Kamala's speech 2 mini thumbs down at 2:37 a.m. In the middle of the night last night. He posted, Kamala's speech was terrible, full of lies and nothing new. Where are the jobs? There are none. 75,000 is 22,000 more than showed up for Trump's rally in that same spot on January 6th. And the craziest part is when she was done speaking, they all just went home. Arnold Schwarzenegger said even the Terminator says he's not going back to Donald Trump. But she also got a bit of a hiccup from Joe Biden.
Have you clicked that subscribe button yet? Fantastic. Thanks for your support. Now, back to our regularly scheduled political circus. Trump took his campaign strategy in an interesting direction, climbing aboard a garbage truck like he was auditioning for a reality show about sanitation workers. But the real entertainment came during his Allentown appearance, where he fell back on his familiar crowd size comparisons. Kamala must be shipping in supporters by the busload because her rally last night pulled in 75,000 empty seats.